Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
3, 2, 1, and we're back. Today's podcast is Secrets Exposed, Top Agents Expired Listings Playbook. Now, there are a ton of notes for today's podcast that you're going to want to have. And to get those notes, you have to subscribe to our newsletter, or I was about to say our new newsletter. It's maybe a couple months old now, but it's called harrisrealestatedaily.com. harrisrealestatedaily.com is the exclusive newsletter where you're going to be able to receive the notes for that day's podcast, as well as exclusive contact. We're completing a lot of great interviews that are going to be industry leaders, true influencers, some of our top coaching clients, names that you have heard of, names that you will be hearing from in the future because of what they're doing in the industry. So we want you to have all that information. So subscribe to harrisrealestatedaily.com. It is free. It is our daily newsletter. You can scroll down below and click the link to join, or just go to harrisrealestatedaily.com.
All right, so back to Secrets Exposed, Top Agents Expired Playbook for Success. Now, when I was putting together this outline, Tim, I was thinking, we talk about expireds virtually in one way or another on every podcast. So, of course, this is one of our go-to topics. But today we're concentrating on reports back from actual coaching clients who are not just thinking about dabbling in expireds, but are conquering this particular topic. They are taking expireds and they are selling them.
Should we show them or explain to them that there are expireds in all markets? Because I just felt thousands of agents saying, there are no expireds.
Not in my market. Well, this is one of our first points. So the following secrets come straight from our coaching clients who are successfully taking and selling expired listings. Today, we'll discuss secrets, examine what real expired sellers have to say about their previous agent, and finally, provide strategies for you to follow so you can find success with expired listings as well, just like our coaching clients. So this isn't just because we say so. This is evidence from the front lines. So first, we're going to talk about some secrets or some discoveries that coaching clients and our coaches have shared with us. Number one, coaching clients report that there are far more expired listing opportunities than they thought, to your first question, right? They are discovering there's more than they thought. Key changes they made to find more expired homes are things like expanding your geographic search, going further back in time, and adding withdrawn and temporarily off the market homes to the search. Now, I also have heard from coaches and from a couple of emails from clients, they actually didn't understand how to search for expireds. This is a new thought for some.
Well, a lot of people argue with us that there aren't any expireds in their market. After all, there are hardly any homes for sale. Mm-hmm. And I know it does sound counterintuitive, listeners,
right?
But go into your MLS and do exactly what Julie just said. You don't have to go and click too many times. Just go and say all expired listings and put the date range of the last 12 months and be ready to be amazed. And yes, I know some of them are going to be commercial properties that are like 5 hours from your house, and you would never, that's not a good product for you. But the moral of the story is you need to expose yourself to the huge opportunity that expired listings truly represent to agents who want to become listing agents.
That's right. And when I teach this as a coach, I do what you said. Start with virtually your entire MLS, or at least, the main MLS search criteria geographically, just so you can see what's out there broadly. And then if you get a ton, let's say you get 1,500, well, you're not probably going to make 1,500 contacts. Some of those don't make sense for you. Then you can make it closer into your desired geography or a certain price range or neighborhoods you're trying to break into. So start broad and then get it smaller. And call your MLS if you're unclear how to perform these searches, or maybe get help from your broker or your coach. Point number 2, again, these are discoveries. Coaching clients state that the owners of expired listings are way nicer to talk to and much more open to discussion than they thought. They're craving a new approach and a better strategy, especially the ones who actually have to sell and aren't just messing around.
Advanced coaching tip: call the older expireds first and call the most expensive expireds first. We're going to talk more about that in the second half of today's show.
Yes, and the third secret that our coaching clients have exposed, the agents who are taking these listings often sell them within 10 days or fewer of taking them. I've had several instances where coaching clients have emailed and they said, you're not going to believe this, I sold it within less than a day. One of my long-term coaching clients, Lance Kenmore, listed a previous, it was like a Parade of Homes house, and sold it literally, like, I think it took 3 hours to sell it. I asked him what did he do. He said he put it in MLS. It hadn't had MLS exposure. He had better pictures, had better description, and he found somebody who was looking for that exact thing. I think he even sold it himself.
Well, I'm going to give another advanced tip since you got my brain working. If
Yep.
you think about expireds, all of you are going to go to, well, it must have been overpriced. You're going to discover that's not always true. Matter of fact, I would say that's true maybe probably 30 to 40% of the time it had a price issue or positioning issue. But if it was an expired from, say, even 90 days ago, chances are with the inflation that's happening in the economy on a whole, but, call it appreciation in real estate, that overpriced listing might even be a little bit underpriced now because of the new value of the home. So when you're quoting the old expireds and the price, at the time was too aspirational, it's probably in perfect alignment with what the market's willing to pay at this point. You guys get it? So they're 40% of the time, if it's not selling because of price, well, guess what? That's no longer an issue. And you're going to be the bearer of wonderful news to that seller.
Exactly. And there's a secondary point to this. When you do that, when you take the expired and you sell it quickly, this creates a fantastic marketing opportunity to prospect even more expired owners. Client testimonials can be utilized for videos, postcards, door hangers, and many more things. So really all you need is the first expired victory, and then you can bounce on to the next ones. All right. Moving on to section 2 of today's podcast, top complaints that expired sellers have about their previous agents. Again, this is real world commentary as reported by coaching clients. Some of this is straight from coaching notes. Number 1, the previous agent took the listing, put it in the MLS, and did nothing else. They expected the home to sell itself, which suggests a sense of overpromising and under-delivering. That was a common theme amongst expireds that were actually talking about what they thought happened.
Now, what would be the nothing else that the sellers would have been referring to? Well, guess what? The seller didn't know what to expect because the previous listing agent didn't tell them what to expect. So this was most likely an agent who got the listing because maybe they'd sold on the house, or maybe they're a friend from church or whatever. In other words, the seller was not that selective in who they were going to choose to be their listing agent, and now they're paying the price of, essentially because their listing didn't sell.
Yes, and perhaps both seller and agent in that case had expectations. Well, we don't really have to do anything; it'll just sell itself. And that does happen randomly still. But with more inventory coming online and fewer buyers being willing to buy right now, we do see more expireds.
And advanced coaching tip number 3 for today's podcast: your biggest competitor on an expired listing is the previous listing agent. And if the previous listing agent, you don't have to go in there. And I know there's a lot of frankly horrible coaching and training out there telling you that you're supposed to go in there and kind of dump on the previous listing agent. That's the last thing you do, because the previous listing agent probably is still a friend of theirs. So you don't really even talk about the previous listing agent at the end of the day. The seller is sometimes going to want to fire hose you about all the horribleness that the previous listing agent, it's very rare that they will, but if that does happen, don't pile on. Just basically shake your head, be understanding, and then move on. The point is to get the property sold, and that's what we're going to go to in the next few points.
Yeah, and your response can always be basically the same. Sounds like you need a different strategy.
Right. I mean, again, just remember, the previous listing agent is your number one competitor with an expired listing. And if you run into a situation where the seller is basically not, does not like the previous listing agent, well, you probably don't have a competitor when it goes to taking that listing. It's your game to lose.
Exactly. So that brings us to point number 2. Again, reported back from coaching clients after discussions with these sellers. They say the previous agent didn't do any open houses. The previous agent either said they didn't work, they didn't believe in them, or they were unnecessary. This really makes sellers mad. Open houses are one of the only tangible things that sellers see agents do. Now, if a seller says to you, I don't want an open house, then you don't argue with them. That's fine. But most sellers do want open houses because it shows that you're making an effort.
It's interesting, Julie, the juxtaposition of just maybe 15 years ago, that when you and I were selling real estate, the seller wanted to see lots of advertising, right?
Yes.
Especially an upper end listing. If you were to go on an upper end listing, it was almost like a Cold War to see who could spend the most, promising the seller and ads in, the Goodyear blimp, the New York Times, and all this other stuff. And oftentimes, if the agents in the seller's mind were more or less equal, it's whichever one walked in with the most amount of, published printing and
marketing
advertising
stuff
and flyers and all this other garbage that really didn't do anything to sell the house, by the way. But the seller wanted to see it. Nowadays, everyone basically does the same thing. And so the thing that's going to make the difference are the agents that are doing the open houses. Because if you walk into a listing presentation and you're talking about your marketing, your advertising, your internet marketing, your international, relocation, all the things, right, that everyone basically says nowadays, And you also do open houses, and then you're going to tell them how you proactively market to the neighborhood, and you start following a lot of the things we've been teaching you guys in Premier Coaching for years, you're going to get that listing versus the agent that's just going to talk about their passive lead generation. Use the vernacular that Julie and I use when we're talking about proactive lead generation versus passive lead generation. You can explain that directly to the seller, right? I proactively look for buyers for your house versus passively look for your buyers for your house. Let me explain to you what that means, Mr. Seller. And then explain to them what it means. Yes, we do the advertising. Yes, we do the online stuff. Yes, we do all the branding and the marketing and the things everyone else does. But in addition to that, we also do the proactive stuff where we're going to actually go after meaningful conversations with decision-making adults who probably know somebody that wants to purchase your house. We're going to talk to your neighbors. We're going to talk to all the prospective buyers that are looking in your neighborhood. We're not going to wait around for an ad to maybe find the right buyer.
Very well said and all true. So this number 3 is straight from coaching clients. The previous agent's pictures were horrible. Now there's lots of different versions of horrible. Maybe the agent was seen in the mirror taking the picture of themselves. Showed open toilet lids. That's something that really makes sellers mad. It was too dark. It was not staged. It was not professionally shot. The sellers were disappointed in the simple lack of effort with the photos.
Advanced coaching tip number 5. You might find that the seller has the best pictures of their house ever, or at least their perception of them. Around the holidays, maybe you're in a market where there's seasons and they want to have pictures. They took beautiful fall pictures and winter pictures and all the rest of it, spring flowers, the whole thing. If you have a seller who has taken pictures of their house and they offer you those pictures, it'll happen maybe 10% of the time. Always say yes and always use them. Otherwise, you're insulting them.
Absolutely. Nothing, makes them mad faster than that. Okay, number 4. Again, this is commentary from actual expired sellers. This is one of my own coaching clients that had this happen. A seller was away from the home and returned to roaches in the foyer. Not my coaching client, of course. This is coming from my coaching client who took this listing. Seller was away for a while, returned to roaches in the foyer. This is a really nice house, too. No one was checking on their vacant home. In this case, the home didn't expire. The seller just fired that agent. It was showing up as a withdrawn. Remember our previous point, don't just look for expireds, also look for withdrawns.
Okay, we need to talk about the nuances of that. So what will happen sometimes is an agent, frankly, more experienced agents will know not to have their listings ever show up as expired. Why? A whole bunch of reasons, but I'll give you the most obvious ones. Because most inexperienced agents that are searching for expireds will only search in the MLS by the word expired. They won't search by the word withdrawn. And there's different levels of withdrawn. It means different things in different MLSs, but let's just stick with these two general terms. So again, an experienced listing agent is never going to have, they're about to lose a listing legitimately. They've had the listing for 180 days. They know the seller's not going to renew with them. They're going to change the status in the MLS to withdrawn so that, essentially they might have a chance of winning back that seller if they know they're not going to necessarily have a bunch of agents that are, trying to solicit them for that now expired, soon to be active again listing. You following me on all this? But the other reason is because when agents are running their own statistics, or when they're in a very competitive market, like when Julie and I would go on appointments and we knew who we were competing against, we'd bring that agent's their whole, batting average. We'd show how many houses they sold, how many houses to buyers, how many houses to sellers, what their average sale price was, what their average sale price was, or the list to sell price ratio was, their days on the market,
their expired rate.
And guess what? We'd also show their withdrawn rate because we wanted the seller to make a factual decision based on actual numbers. And we knew our numbers were more competitive than all of our competitors. Provided the seller was receptive to that type of information, we would always get the listing. And you can too.
Exactly. And that also assumes that you use the pre-qualification script to find out that you were competing in the first place.
This is all in Premier Coaching. All the training that we're talking about now, this is just an overview. Julie and I are not coaching you right now. This is just merely training. We're exposing you to the opportunities that you have in front of you when you become a Premier Coaching client. And joining Premier Coaching is free. Just go to premiercoaching.com, premiercoaching.com, or you can scroll down and click the link below. And yes, Premier Coaching does include, some of you asked me questions about this to this day because you can't believe it, but it's true. It does include a daily semi-private coaching call with one of our Harris certified coaches. That's every work day for the first month. That's 20, semi-private coaching calls you're going to receive for free. That's how confident we are you're going to love Premier Coaching. And somebody asked me the other day, Julie, how long does the average coaching client stay a coaching client? And I didn't really off the top of my head know the average, but they asked what was the longest. And I said 18 years.
Yes, and why is that? It's because what you need throughout the years, assuming that you're coachable and you deploy the things that you learn, it changes. I know who you're referring to, and we've been coaching them literally since not exactly the day they got licensed, but pretty early on. And now they're running a team. They've got different divisions. They're averaging more than 350 deals per year. So the questions that they have now are quite different than even a year ago.
Well, it's a math problem, right? So I explained in the same person, I said, look, here's the fact. If you are, if you have a real estate coach, and you can 100% say what I learned from that real estate coach resulted in me making this amount of money, which was, some percent greater than whatever you paid that real estate coach in 90 days or less, then guess what? That's a hell of a good investment. If I went to you, dear listener, and I said, give me $1 and then 90 days or less, I'm going to give you $3, you're going to say yes every single time. So when you're hiring us, when you're hiring any real estate coach, but you're hiring Julie and I, do be prepared to have us in your lives for a long period of time, because that is usually what happens. And our Premier coaching clients are some of the most loyal, some of the most, I think, interesting. And we're getting a whole new batch of people in Premier. And I've noticed that the profile of some of the new members, because we survey all of them, is changing. We're getting a lot of people that are coming from professional careers, that are retiring from their careers, or I see a lot of folks, frankly, from law enforcement, a lot of retired military people, a lot of airline folks, a lot of people that with professional backgrounds that are used to drilling down and doing the real work, and they're entering into real estate. I think we're going to see the quality of a lot of the, essentially the transactional quality improve dramatically across the country as we see more of these types of people enter into the industry. But in any event, do join Premier Coaching. It is free for the first 30 days. So premiercoaching.com, or scroll down and click the link below.
All right, so more things that we have heard through our coaching clients that sellers say about expiring. Sellers often complain of zero or poor communication from their previous listing agent. Our coaching clients have a communication guarantee as part of their pre-listing package. So problem solved right there.
Well, again, so one of the biggest, I would say 100% of the time, your previous, the seller is going to complain that the previous agent did a crappy job communicating with them. And the lack of communication is like the most general of all terms. But let's just assume the seller is feeling neglected. So you actually include, and we teach you how to use this in our Premier Coaching Program, a communications guarantee, where you're going to actually guarantee in writing, and it's going to become part of your listing contract, how you're going to communicate with them. And they get to choose, basically. They're going to say, I want to hear from you every day, or I want to hear from you once a week. You're going to give them a little menu on how they're going to communicate, or how you're going to communicate with them. Do you want feedback emailed to you? Do you want someone calling you with the feedback? How do you actually, what to you is beyond, like normal levels of communication, and what to you is exceptional, Mr. Seller? And then obviously what you're going to do is you're going to exceed their expectations. Why does that matter? Because if you happen to be in a situation where you're facing down an expiring listing, they will not fire you if you've been doing an exceptional job communicating with them. They will fire you. Yeah, and they frankly they won't even listen to you. They won't even listen to your price adjustment or condition suggestions. They'll completely ghost you if they feel like you have stopped communicating with them. Communication, number one complaint that all closed sellers and buyers always have about real estate agents.
Yeah, it wasn't commission, it wasn't price, it was lack of communication. And related to that is number 6. Some sellers state that the only time they did hear from their agent was to ask for a price reduction. While price reductions are often needed, you're less likely to get one if you're not showing value before you ask for the reduction. That's a very common thing we hear from expireds.
And what a great way to get fired, too.
Yeah, for sure.
When a seller starts thinking that about you, yeah. Exactly. Sellers are going to say things like, you have to be scripted. You have to be prepared. When you're so an inexperienced listing agent is going to take a listing, and if it doesn't sell in 22 seconds with 22 offers, then most of these inexperienced listing agents go into panic mode. Why? Because you did not properly position the seller to have realistic expectations of the sales process. So one of the things would be, the seller is going to ask probably after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they're going to ask why you personally haven't been showing the house enough if you have not been explaining to the seller something along these lines. The seller will ask, well, hey, Bob, why aren't you showing the house more? Mr. Seller, thank you very much for asking the question. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the fact that you're really keeping track. And here's the simple fact, Mr. Seller. I might not always be the agent that's showing the home, but I am the reason that it's getting shown. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. And then you're going to remind them what you do to generate the leads. You're going to remind them that you're doing some more open houses, right? So if you're not prepared to have those conversations, you're going to be on your heels. You're going to be doing a bunch of fancy two-stepping. It's going to make the seller, when you are uncomfortable, the seller is going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to have any sense of confidence about you. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to fire you.
That's right. And our coaching clients know this. So they use the script that you were talking about, and they also back it up with their listing plan of action, which is part of their pre-listing package, as well as something else that we coach, and the coaches coach on a daily basis, which is the seller's 12-week communication plan. So all of these things are set up to save you from some of these issues. We certainly hope that you sell all of your listings lickety-split overnight with multiple offers going over list. But if that doesn't happen, we don't want you to get fired.
So you guys have all been on a plane before, and you've sat on the plane hopefully with screens, and you know there's an option for you to click to see where you are in the flight. I mean, when Julie and I fly from Puerto Rico to usually to Atlanta, then someplace else in the world, I always click that on just so I can see, what island we're flying over or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that gives me a sense of, okay, look, we're halfway there.
Making progress.
We're making progress. This feels good. What's happening is what's supposed to be happening. And you've been on a plane long enough so you know at this point there's food service, at this point the light goes off, at this point there's this, right? Expectations met, and I'm reminded of the process when I'm looking at that map. If you're not doing that for your sellers, they're going to panic. Imagine being on a plane for the first time. If you can remember the first time you were on a plane, there's no map, there's no expectation. You don't know what's happening when. You're at a heightened state of fear the whole time. And maybe you're a little phobic of flying in the first place. You guys get it? So you're going to have to be the one that gives that calm, cool, collective approach to exceeding the seller's expectations and really heading their fears off at the pass even before they manifest them in their minds. That's what a professional does. Okay, Julie, here's what's going to happen. This is what happens in the first week we have the house listed. Notice I'm doing my Fred Rogers voice. This is what happens in the second week we have the house listed. This is what happens in the third week. And Mr. Seller, here's the thing you got to remember. After 2 weeks or 10 showings, if we don't have a written verified offer on your property, we need to reposition the house on the market so that it correctly reflects the market's expectations. So today is this date. In 2 weeks, it's this date. So we're going to be reviewing the price on this date. So make sure you mark that in your calendar and have them write it down. Because then they're going to be you guys are working off the same script at that point. They know in 2 weeks or 10 showings, whichever comes first, they're going to be, repositioning the house on the market to correctly reflect the market's, or the buyer's expectation, which means obviously lowering the price. Never say to a seller, lowering the price. Another fast track to getting fired. Sellers hate the words lowering the price. But this is all what comes to being a professional. And the great news is all of you can learn to do it. And the even greater news is the conversations you have with these sellers, the system you have with these sellers, the process works in every market, in every price range, in every market condition. If anything, you're going to get a little bored of it because it's going to be what you say and how you say it is going to be so predictable. It's going to come out of your mouth. You know what the effect it's going to have on the seller. You know what the seller is going to say. When you get that sense of essentially arrival, that you're that level of a professional, trust me when I tell you, you're going to have a sense of calm confidence that is going to draw more people to want to do business with you because you've essentially elevated yourself as a true real estate professional. Hopefully you guys understand what I'm talking about. If you don't, keep plugging away, definitely become a premier coaching client and earn the right to have that emotional, have that level of confidence and that feeling.
Very well said. It's not just for expireds. It's all of your real estate dealings. What you're talking about with the higher level of skill is really like superpowers. It gives you confidence, and then you just want to do more and more of it. So let's get to the fun part, the top strategies to list expired homes. And we're not going to do all of them. We're going to just sprinkle a few upon you so that you can get into action immediately. And then you're going to do the rest of the work via Premier Coaching. So top strategies to actually list and sell those expireds. Number 1, spend at least an hour daily speaking with expired, withdrawn, and temporarily off the market sellers directly by phone. And you can use RedX to find those phone numbers.
And we do have a discount below in the show description that does give you a discount of $150 to use RedX. RedX, we used a similar system when Julie and I were hunting expireds, and all of our coaching clients have used RedX. The gist of it is RedX goes into your MLS, searches all the current information about the house, making the expired listing, checking to find all the phone numbers and the status of the house, if it's been listed previously, the whole thing. As much information it can pull out, it's going to share with you. And then what happens is you wake up in the morning and all the newest expireds are sitting there waiting, and you hit a green button on your computer, and you can even use RedX's dialer to start dialing the phone for you. You can just call them yourself from your cell phone. But the moral of the story is the time-wasting activities of having to search all those phone numbers is really a time-wasting activity. Use RedX. It saves all kinds of effort.
Yes, it puts an end to the expired forensics, which is a reason that a lot of agents don't do it, because they spend a day trying to find a phone number on one expired and then they gave up.
Well, but here's the funny part. Some of them will know what we're saying is true, but some of them will still want to do the expired forensics because that's their excuse not to actually have to make the calls.
Well, exactly, because I spent all day doing that.
It's worth mentioning, Julie, we did not mention direct mail. We did not mention social media, anything. We are talking about direct phone calls. Or maybe even door knocking, but phone calls are obviously more efficient. Hopefully we've made that very, very clear. In a market where everyone else is doing the passive lead generation, where agents and humans in general have lost their ability to communicate, let alone communicate professionally, when you fill that gap, you're going to have, the market's basically going to roll out the red carpet for you. Make the phone calls, know what to say, know how to say it. Don't try to convince yourself that there's a ton of competition. There might be a ton of competition in your market, but they're not calling. And if they are calling, they're using VAs from, Cambodia to call, and the seller knows it.
Or
right?
their scripts are terrible.
Or the scripts, yeah, exactly. Or they're just pounding through. It's not the same as somebody who's truly professional making the phone call. And we give you a whole bunch of advanced coaching in Premier Coaching as to what to do and how to be, essentially your market's expired hunter. That would be a great niche. Some of you guys, I want to be a luxury agent. I want to, specialize in brick houses. I want to specialize in properties that were made in the 1800s. All these really, fun niche things. But if you want to really have a powerful niche, be your market's number one expired listing agent. Be the agent that everyone thinks of when they think of expired listings, because you're the one that takes the expireds and gets them sold. Think of something more powerful than that. If you want to talk about having a powerful brand, be the brand of the agent who got the job done that the other agents couldn't get done.
Yeah, that's a great reputation to build, isn't it? All right, number 2. Remember, number 1 was actually talking to them. Okay, number 2, door knock all the listings that don't have good phone numbers within a 20-mile radius of your home or office. Don't over pre-qualify. Don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. Who cares about the history if they want to keep the house and not sell it? Once the seller is speaking with you, you'll use your seller's pre-qualification script, and then you can do further research on the price and history if you need to. So don't waste time on pre-researching. Again, that's what we call expired forensics. You don't need to do that.
The number one thing is don't go on to Google and start doing extra searches beyond what you're getting at RedX. Some of you take a lot of pride in going and searching out all the things that are going on with that potential seller.
You're doing discovery.
You're doing like you think you're, James Bond, and look at this person. They just sold this business, or they just got married, or they just got divorced, or they're all the, their son Barney just graduated from high school. All these things. Who cares? Pick up the damn phone, follow our process, pre-qualify them, find out when they want the property sold, and then you can do your forensic later before you go on your listing appointment.
Exactly. All right. Number 3, door knock and call from the most expensive to the least expensive on your list. Why? Because there's far less competition for the most expensive homes. Many agents get intimidated by the, whatever is luxury in your market, or maybe not even luxury. I've said for many years, and I think you would agree, that most agents get uncomfortable when they have a lead that's significantly more than what they're living in or have lived in,
for sure.
Their parents, how they grew up. So we have a cure for that in coaching, but we won't do that on today's call.
Well, but Julie, here's another little thing that people wouldn't think. You'd think that the best agents and listing agents in your marketplace are the ones selling the most expensive homes. And I have great news for all of you who think that. It's absolutely not true. There might be a few exceptions, like I'm thinking of, Robert Johnson in Greenwich, Connecticut. But for the most part, I would say that the least effective agents are the ones that are selling the most expensive homes, because they're spoiled, because most of their business comes from centers of influence and past clients. They've never really had to develop price reduction skills. They've never really had to be competitive. And frankly, their listings, they don't even pay attention to when they're going to sell or when they're going to expire.
Yep.
Well, Julie and I moved from a market that was an average sale price up to a very expensive market. And because we had sharpened our teeth on the average sale prices and learning how to list expireds of normal priced homes, when we went to that market and we started going after expireds, we absolutely cleaned up. It was astonishing. We started focusing on this market, in this particular market, at the start of like Thanksgiving the previous year, and we knew there would be a ton of expireds, and indeed there were, and we started calling them, and we'd set up listing appointments, and then we started when the spring, like in this particular market, like a lot of listings, like most markets where there's snow, right? A lot of listings come for sale in the spring, and for us it was April, usually late April, and so we put all these houses for sale over a 2-week period, and everywhere you drove around this multi-million-dollar community, there was Tim and Julie Harris, who prior to us going after all this expireds, people hadn't heard of before. Who were our previous listing agents? The agents that had been embedded in that market for years. The ones that, hang out playing tennis all day or playing golf or whose kids had basically gone to the same private schools, or maybe they even went to the same private schools as those sellers. The sellers loved us, and they'll love you because of the fact that we are actually proactively, we're going, after their business in the first place. But then we showed them what we were going to do to get the home sold after their previous listing agent, who'd been their golf buddy for 20 years, had failed to sell the house. Trust me when I tell you that market really did start to roll out the red carpet for us. And nationally, we got a lot of attention for that. National Association of Realtors sent out a reporter and did a story on us. How did Tim and Julie selling normal price homes all of a sudden 5 or 6x their average sale price in less than a year? I just told you.
Exactly. I'll give a little shout out to personal coaching client, Gina Giampietro, another one of my Italian clients. She is going to be moving her practice from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, much like Columbus, Ohio, world's most normal market, doing a lot of, bread and butter type stuff, to a market in Florida. And she's going to be an example of what you just said. You sharpen your teeth doing a lot of production, a lot of volume, on normal people stuff, doing a great job helping them. And then you go to a higher end market. And I think, a lot of people would be surprised. The assumption is that those high-end agents just have everything going on every level. And there certainly are some examples, but you can't count on that. I get really excited for somebody like Gina that's going to make that upgrade. That's going to be really fun to see her do it.
I know who she is. I've talked with her on the phone before, and she's absolutely going to kick ass in that market.
Definitely.
She's going to go to in Pittsburgh, which is a normal price of probably $300,000, to a market where it's going to be over $1 million.
Yep.
And she's going to bring her $300,000 mindset, and she's used to having, 20 listings at all times?
Oh, yeah.
Down to a market where the average sale price is $1 million. It's not even going to be fair.
I know. I tease her about what she's going to do with herself for her new time.
I mean, she's because look at it this way. She's used to making probably 6, maybe 8, 9, 10,000 per sale.
Sure.
And now she's going to be tripping over 30 to 40,000 per sale.
That's going to be fun.
But that's also what keeps a lot of the top end agents in the country from becoming really effective, because their average paychecks are so big.
Well, they haven't done nearly the number of transactions because they haven't had to.
Right. Exactly. I mean, if you're making $50,000 every 60 days or whatever, and you have to earn $300,000 a year, and you're making double what you have to sell per year on 7 or 8 units per year, and you're getting all of it from playing tennis. I mean, there's no real competitive reason why you're going to want to sell more houses necessarily, or frankly, put in a bunch of extra effort because you're getting it all from your buddies at the tennis club. You guys get it? So if you really want to take your business to the next level and start earning a lot more money, think about where you can in your community go and become the expired listing expert. I mean, we proved it could happen, and we've had thousands of coaching clients, prove the same thing.
Yes, and another favorite thing about expireds is, again, we're talking about our strategies so you can take these listings. Number 3, door knock or call expired homes that meet the criteria of your buyers who can't find the right home due to low inventory or maybe due to some specific needs. This is one of the favorite calls of our coaching clients. They have real clients with real needs. Many transactions are coming together as a result of playing matchmaker.
Now, we did a buyers wanted a flyer, and we had our buyers agent team, and we'd also insert this into the local newspaper. And basically, obviously you're going to have buyers that are searching in a particular area. Nothing's for sale that meets their criteria. And we would create a flyer, and it's again, Premier Coaching has a lot of detail on this, but the gist of it was, it's actually sellers wanted, right? So it was a sellers wanted flyer, and the flyer would list off all the specific, maybe there are 5 or 6 buyers, family of 5 moving from Atlanta, looking up to $1.3 million, and they need to move and, be settled in by this particular, just very general information on them. Buyer number 2, buyer number 3, buyer number 4, downsizing from, this particular neighborhood, looking for something that's going to be, less than say 700,000, and it's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and 2-car garage, and close to this amenity, those types of things. And then we would put the flyer out in the community, and guess what we'd always find? Lots of folks that were thinking about putting their house for sale in the future that realized, well, there's a buyer out there now. Why don't I just, reach out and see if that buyer's going to want to buy my house? And we sold so many houses of listings that were going to come for sale in 6 months or in 12 months that way. And for the buyers that could wait, guess what? They waited. The seller was happy, and we ended up doing multiple transactions that way.
That's right. I mean, I have so many examples of coaching clients that do just that. I'm thinking of Kristen Holly in Fort Worth, Texas. Most of, not quite all of, but I'd say maybe 70 or 80% of her pendings. And she by herself is on track to, I think she's going to go over $1 million GCI. That's without a team. That, she's putting these deals together, doing things like this. She has buyers' needs. She goes and finds the listing for them. She does both sides. She controls the closing dates. She's got an ongoing list of what her buyers want, an ongoing list of what sellers want. When she tells me about her coming soons, she almost always follows that with, I already have a buyer for that. I was looking for that thing for them.
Isn't she up near Dallas?
Fort Worth, yeah.
Fort Worth, okay. And so we have Chuck Williamson, which is in Wilson, North Carolina. He earns over $1 million per year, and he's a single agent.
Yeah.
We have John Walkinshaw in Canada.
That's right.
Who earns over $1 million per year.
Yeah, you don't have to have all this machinery and huge teams and all this stuff.
And he's a single agent. The moral of the story is if you want a niche, we just gave it to you. Become an expired listing agent. When you're an expired listing agent, your focus is just going every day and following our system, obviously prospecting to the newest expired listings, setting pre-qualified listing appointments, improving your ratios, following your numbers, being coachable. And then what's going to happen is you're going to start out with having 3 listings, 5 listings, 10 listings. And then it's going to become easy for you to maintain a listing inventory of 10 listings at all times. Then you're going to start having massive consistent cash flow. That is the essence of what we want for all of you, because then you get yourself out of the treadmill. You don't have to worry about branding anymore, marketing anymore, buyers agents anymore. You don't have to worry about commission sharing lawsuits anymore.
No.
You don't have to worry about any of the stuff, any of the things that occupy all everyone's bandwidth, and all these things that live rent free in people's minds, right? You can let all of that stuff go when you follow our Premier Coaching System. You can hit, guys, what you don't realize is a lot of you are following these ideas. Let me see if I can get the joke right. That are similar to, basically, they have the same logic of putting an ejector seat in a helicopter.
Exactly.
Did I
Think
get it
about
right?
that, God. You did. It's a new joke we both learned this morning.
Think about that. An ejector seat in a helicopter. You get it?
Dumb.
Upside down blender.
Yeah.
If I have to.
It's bad.
Go ahead.
Okay, so just 2 more points. Number 4, door knock and call on old and older expireds, withdrawns, and temporarily off the market listings. Go back several months to even several years. Remember that these homes have appreciated since they expired. You might not even need to reprice them to sell them for these clients. Maybe a lot of them, I hear about this quite frequently, a lot of those withdrawns and expireds were just taking a break. They just wanted a breath from the showings. Maybe they were fixing some of the, remedying the bad feedback. Maybe they were on vacation, and then they're ready to rumble again.
Well, one of the marketing things that we teach you how to do in Premier Coaching when you're going after expired listings, and this works really well for upper end expireds, is, and this is basically the script, but I'm only going to give you guys an overview, is sometimes, Mr. Seller, you'll, I think, have a sense of relief when I tell you this, but sometimes the best homes don't sell. And it's not for the reasons you've probably been told. And just let it hang. And that's going to be a relief valve for the seller who probably had the previous agent beating them over the head about price. And if they have interviewed any other agents for the job of being their listing agent, chances are those other agents are very inexperienced and we're only talking about price. Because what Julie just told you, and you will find this to be true, I know it's counterintuitive, but a lot of times listings are not selling and it's not the price. It might be, frankly, the seller's too fussy in allowing showings. It might be because there's a condition issue.
We did a podcast about all of the other reasons, complicated showing instructions, stuff like that.
Or here's another one you'll find. Inexperienced buyer's agents. Look, listing agents, here's an advanced tip for you. If you've been getting a lot of showings on one of your listings and you keep on seeing it, it's the same agent that's showing over and over again, chances are they're showing it to the same buyer. The buyer wants to buy the house, otherwise they wouldn't want to be seeing it continuously. But the buyer's agent doesn't have the skill set to get them to buy the house. They literally do not know how to ask simply for the buyer to purchase the property. They're waiting for the buyer to tell them. All these things that happen, right? Or maybe they're really close friends, and the buyer's agent doesn't want to feel like they're putting pressure on their. You guys get it. So you're going to have to be very, conscious of the activity that's happening on your listing. And when you do see something like the same or showings happening from the same buyer's agent, you need to actually ask the buyer's agent what's going on. The buyer's agent will probably be very prideful and not want to tell you, not want to admit the fact that they are terrible and don't know how to get don't have the skills to get the contract signed. So you need to make a reverse offer. Julie, what's a reverse offer?
A reverse offer is what it sounds like. It is an offer from the seller to the buyer. Usually the buyer is offering to the seller, right? And many MLSs actually have a specific form for this. I know we have that in Texas where I'm licensed. It's the seller's offer to buyer, where the sellers, might say, hey, I noticed that you've been by 3 times and you brought your parents, you brought your kids, and you made sure the dog can be happy in the backyard. So I'll tell you what, I will sell this to you for, even if you come back at list price, but say you can have a flexible closing date, or maybe the seller would entertain some kind of concessions just to get the ball rolling. Because again, to your point, Tim, a lot of buyer's agents, just for whatever reason, are not closing. They're not asking for the sale. I remember we used to do stuff like that. We'd have open house buyers would come in, and one of the open house questions is, of the homes that you've already seen, which one did you like the most? Well, I liked one down the street. What, did you do anything about it? No, I didn't know what to do. It's amazing. This is such a simple thing.
Well, Julie's point there, did you listen to what you just said? So there was someone down the way, or maybe they saw it 2 weeks ago at an open house. When it's a pre-qual question. Have you seen, so how long have you been searching for a home? I've been looking for 60 days. 60 days, that's great. Well, in the last 60 days, how many homes have you seen that you thought were a good match for what you're looking for? Well, there was one in particular at 123 Elm Street. 123 Elm Street, whether you know it or not, say, well, let me check to see if that one's still available. If it is, I'm jumping forward and skipping a line or two from the script, but you guys just stay with me on this. Would you be interested in making an offer on it? They're going to say, yes, I would. And here's what you're going to discover. It's still available. The agent who was doing the open house didn't even probably spend, any time with this buyer, didn't, obviously pre-qualify them, ask if they wanted to purchase the house. Or it may have even been their previous buyer's agent who they've since gotten rid of, who's shown them something, but they never actually asked them to write the offer in the property. These types of basic things happen all the time. And if you're knowing what to say and how to say it, you'll be shocked how frequently you're selling real estate with virtually no effort. You're going to find out that 123 Elm Street's still available. The buyer wants to buy it. They're not legally attached to any other buyer's agent. You write the offer, you get the commission.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of this is showing up, not being a secret agent, asking good questions, and remembering to close.
Well, Tim, what about threshold laws? What are all the rest of it? I said legally obligated to. Remember
and
I said that?
Using good scripts with questions. Yes.
Right. And remember, in this new world where everyone's going to be signing an exclusive buyer's agency contract, those of you who've been in the business as long as we have, not so sure the old threshold rules matter anymore. No. The threshold rules are sort of the guidelines, and I think some MLSs still follow this. But basically, whoever crossed the threshold with the buyer, whether there was any sort of exclusive buyer's agent contract signed or not, that agent was the one that was going to receive the commission.
Procuring costs.
If they show the house to that buyer one time, then somehow many MLSs would say they were the procuring cause for that sale. And sometimes they would be argued that an open house would basically suffice for that. Not so sure in this new world with exclusive buyer agency contracts whether that actually is still valid. Pretty damn sure it's not.
Yeah, those days are probably over. All right, last but not least, if any of this is making you nervous at all, but you're still motivated, which I know all of you are, point number 5, join Premier Coaching today to systematize your expired strategy, and soon you'll be successful with this gold mine. Just like you've heard, every point we used today was straight from coaching clients and coaches. Don't forget to sign up with RedX so that you'll have the information needed to get started. Remember, and the link, go ahead, Tim.
The link is down below in today's show description. And when you click the link, you'll also receive a discount of $150. You definitely want to try on RedX for size. You're going to love the way that works. And again, if Julie and I are going after expired listings, there's 100% chance that RedX would be the first thing we'd subscribe to. It's not a gimmick. It's not a shiny object. It's a tool that you need. It's like DocuSign. It's like Premier Coaching. It's going to be the exact thing that's going to result in you taking the exact actions that's going to result in you helping people making money.
Yes, and remember, with expireds, there are no referral or other acquisition fees when you take those expireds. Listing and selling just one expired home monthly is worth at least $100,000 in yearly income, and that's based on just the national average.
Right, of $10,000. So there you go. Hopefully this information is going to motivate you, educate you, and of course now it's your time to get into action. You have 3 homework assignments from today's podcast. Number 1, subscribe to HarrisRealEstateDaily.com so you can get this newsletter in addition to a bunch of other content for free. Number 2, if you've not done so yet, make sure you join Premier Coaching. Just go to Premier Coaching or click the link below. And number 3, make sure you go to the MLS and you do a complete MLS search for all the expired listings, and make sure you have your hand carefully positioned under your jaw. Otherwise, when your jaw drops, you might throw your jaw out of alignment. So make sure you catch yourself when your jaw drops when you see what we told you as far as the thousands and thousands of expired listings. Don't, try to, go commercial, go industrial, go all, lots, everything. Search your entire MLS for anything that expired in the last 12 months. And like I said, you will then all of a sudden realize what a tremendous opportunity going after expireds are, even in the markets where there are no homes for sale, Tim. There aren't any homes for sale because agents aren't going to where the homes are for sale. And that's going to be one of the first searches that you're going to do is looking at expired listings.
Well, what's interesting, and we need to wrap this up in a second here, but you made me think of taking this to the next level, which many of our coaching clients have done. They have found a specific niche. So I'm thinking about somebody like Christopher Leon in Chicago. He discovered that he discovered this during the pandemic because remember, a lot of commercial properties were taken off the market. You couldn't even show them. They kind of went cold for a while. He's got this niche where he likes this mixed use stuff. So maybe there's an apartment in the top and a business in the bottom, and it's on an old historic street or something like that.
You just described like a mullet. You know what I'm saying? The mullet,
like
real
that.
estate mullet, right?
Something on the top.
Business on the top, party at the back. Anyway.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And guess what? Not very many agents prospect that kind of
Right.
thing. They're a little bit more complicated. He did some co-listing with a commercial agent until he figured out how to do it on his own. But now this is something he's become really good at. One of the things that we used to do, again, taking this to the next level and polishing it up, we used to look for expired new construction and doing an expired search for the past, maybe 24 months. So that'll get you spec homes that small builders are doing that probably already built or they're nearly built.
We listed 2 complete subdivisions that way.
Yes.
One our first year in Worthington, and the other, I don't remember how many years after that. It was 71 condos.
Yep.
Were basically all from expired listings.
Yes, expired new construction. Now that's a specific search where you put in year built. So you go back a couple of years. That way you're not looking at all the other stuff. That's a very targeted expired search. One of the things we're going to talk about on a future podcast this week when we're talking about breaking into the luxury market is to, let's say you've got 3 neighborhoods. You would love to break into those neighborhoods and turn those into your personal geographic farm that you love. I'm thinking about back to Kristen Hawley and her neighborhood in Fort Worth, the neighborhood she lives in. She's basically the only one with those listings. She has made that her own. So you can identify that and you can find expireds in those neighborhoods that you desire and break in faster than pretty much any other way.
Julie, since I know we're talking a lot about luxury real estate the rest of this week, and if you look in your MLS, I know it's not true for all of you. Julie and I sold real estate in Columbus, Ohio. Most of Columbus, Ohio's average sale price of around $450 grand. But there are pockets, large pockets, where it's more expensive than that. If there is a viable market opportunity for you in those other areas where the sale price is 3-4x what the average sale price is, the only thing that's preventing you from going out there and selling that more expensive house or those more expensive homes is what goes on in between your ears. When Julie and I were thinking about going out to New Albany for 2 years before we moved out there, we would go out there every single weekend. We'd park our car and we would walk around. We'd get to know the neighborhood. We'd get to know the people. We'd
Go to the open houses.
Go to the open houses and, all that. We would do our best to try to feel comfortable there because we were just a couple, Julie's middle class, I'm a poor kid from, the other side of town. And we were a fish out of water, but by the time we moved out there, we wanted to be there. We were enthusiastic about being there. We'd earned our right to be there. We'd learned the market. We knew the streets. We knew about all the things because we really wanted to, make it so that when we hit the ground running, and we did. And you guys can copy that same exact thing. So if you're in a market that does have 15, 20, even 30 minutes from you, more expensive real estate, what the heck is holding you back? Listen to the rest of the shows that we're doing this week. They're specifically geared towards luxury. Luxury is the broadest of terms, but I think in most markets is 2 or 3x where the average sale price is. And then do open your mind to taking action on, selling the same amount of homes you're selling now, but making 3 or 4x the amount of commission. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.